Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Live from Mama Dog Studios. I am Courtney Payne, and I'm here today with a very special guest. We're going to be talking about film. We're going to be talking about East Bay Film Collective. We're going to be talking about the Bay. Very exciting things. Please welcome Kamau Bell.
I just wanted to clap.
Yay.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. How's your day going?
It's Halloween. Is that okay to say? We're on the internet. So when people are watching this, it is actually Halloween. So, I'm a dad. I got 3 daughters, so it's a big day.
Big day.
Yeah.
You dressing up?
Never. I look tired, don't I?
You look tired?
I'm saying I look tired, don't I?
No.
That's very
slightly. So thank you for being here today. And I know, you got a lot of things going on, and we just want to get a little conversation with you about some of the things you're working on, some cool things. Mm-hmm. And so I know you're from the Bay, from Palo Alto.
Yeah, it's complicated, but I was born, my parents were living in East Palo Alto when I was born. I was born at Stanford Hospital, but then very quickly we left, and then I came back in 1997. So people sort of have now thought that I may be from here, but I don't want to say that in front of people who are actually born and raised here, so I'm very careful.
97, though, and you've been here since, no?
I was in New York for 2 years, but I've been,
you bounced around, that's cool, we all do.
But somebody said the other day that if you've been here 8 years in a row, or 6 years in a row, then you can stop sort of being weird about it, and I've definitely been here longer than 6 years.
And still you're a little...
I think it's better to be, well, first of all, I'm just a little weird. This is probably off topic. I'm a little bit awkward. It's my brand. And then I just don't want anybody to think that I'm sort of like pretending like, I don't want to look like a guy who's like, when people say he's born and raised here, yeah, like I'm sort of trying to fake the funk.
Well, you've been in the Bay for a while.
I've been in the Bay for a minute.
So
Since rent was cheap.
Yeah. Before these current times.
Yes.
So you spent a few years in New York. You came back. You want to work
2 years. Don't put me in New York for a few years.
Okay, 2 years. Two only.
2 only.
Years in New York, and then you came back here, and you wanted to work in production in the Bay Area. Like, what made you want to come back to the Bay? Why do you want to? I mean, New York has a lot of opportunities, but why be here and work in your industry?
Yeah, by all logic and intelligence and careerism, I should be in New York or LA. I should really be in LA. But what happened is my wife, we had one kid who is now 12. When we were in New York, she got pregnant with our second kid. And it was really about, like, where do we want our family to be? Not, like, where do we want my career to be? Because career would be like, well, we'll stay in New York. We already have a lease on an apartment, or we'll move to L.A. where all the career stuff is. But it was like, where do we want to raise our family? My wife is from Monterey. A lot of her family lives in the Sacramento area and also in the sort of in the East Bay, so the parts of the East Bay that aren't the East Bay anymore, East. Yeah. And so it was like, well, we're not going to live in Sacramento. We're not going to live there. And we had just lived in Oakland. Why don't we go back to Oakland? And then Oakland was too expensive, so we said, why don't we settle in Berkeley and then get to Oakland, which is what happened.
Okay. So now you're in Oakland.
Now we're in Oakland. Yeah.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Welcome to.
Been here a few years. People still think I'm in Berkeley because a thing happened to me in Berkeley one time that people know about. So people think I'm still in Berkeley, but I'm not in Berkeley anymore.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Okay, cool. So film production, obviously this is not a hub, but there's things going on. We had a moment in the Bay Area. There's a lot of opportunities here. Like, what does the landscape look like to you?
I mean, I think we're in the middle of a wave that I think people will look back on and go, wait, there was a moment in the East Bay, Oakland, and sort of like the related cities, that it's like, okay, so Ryan Coogler lives here. He has not moved to L.A., which he really should live in L.A. Boots Riley is not going anywhere. You couldn't get him out of here with an earthquake. You have Cheryl Dunye. You have Jocelyn Rose Lyons. You have Naima Jordan. You have me. You have any number of people who are like actually Pete Nix. I'm going to keep thinking of people as I say this. All these people who actually work in the business but live here. So all these people who sort of refuse to do the smart thing and move to LA, but live here, but generally don't work here a lot because the work's not here. So for me, as a person who hosted a travel show, I could travel over the country and then come back here. It didn't really matter where I lived. Yeah. And also somebody who's now directing documentaries, you can sort of do there wherever you do. But the idea being that, like, well, if we're here, we all know it's not easy to film here for various reasons. Yeah. How do we then make it easier to film here? That's a project that many people have taken on over the years. How do you film in Oakland? The Wayans is the project that everybody thinks about the first time they think about, like, the Wayans said they were going to open a studio here. I don't know exactly why it didn't happen, but many people are like, I'll tell you why that didn't happen. Come to me. So there's lots of stories about that. I just felt like, personally, someone who has really decided to live here and put roots down and not go anywhere, like, I'm at a place where like I should be making it more accessible for the next generation. Even though I still think of myself as the current generation, but I know that like I sort of speak at school sometimes and talk to kids and like, how can I show you that this is not like a dream, it's just a job and it's accessible, and how can we make it so that it's accessible to you here so that you don't get to a certain point in your career and go, I gotta move. How do we make it so that like Oakland is like Atlanta, where it's like it's just a job in Atlanta. It's just there's people who grow up and go, I'm gonna work in the film industry here, and it doesn't seem like a faraway dream. It's like it's over there.
Yeah. First of all, that's awesome because not a lot of people do that. They don't feel like they need to necessarily pave a way for the next generation.
I mean, that's the Oakland way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
That's the city of the next generation. So I think I've learned the right lessons from Oakland. I mean, and I think that like all these filmmakers I just mentioned and more have tried to do this at various points, but this is the first time we feel like there's actually the will in the city government to do it. So like there's the mayor who's open to the idea and excited about the idea. There's the council members who are excited about the idea. So it's actually the political will is in place, because we could do this ourselves, but we can't pass like incentives to make the taxes better. And that's the thing you need. You need a few things to make it happen. And one thing you really need is like tax incentives so that when companies come here to film, there's a reason why they're coming here and not going to San Francisco or Canada or Atlanta.
Yeah, or LA, which is much closer.
Or LA. Yeah, and LA, yeah. And I mean, but people like to film outside of LA, but they have to be invited to the place they're filming. It can't be more expensive to film outside of LA than it is in LA.
So I want to get into the genesis a little bit, because you talked about there's been movements or efforts in the past to do this, and
it's really important for me to say that I am not the first. We are not the first. People have tried. There just hasn't been the political will in place, or there hasn't been all the right things happening.
So how did you get involved in this moment now? Like you and the mayor, can you talk a little bit about how that happened?
I mean, so me and my wife just founded our production company, Who Knows Best. We did that. Thank you. We did that early this year, and once we did that, I was immediately talked to Grace Porras, who I work with, who works at our company. She's the director of business or business development. I don't know titles.
She's awesome.
Yeah, she's awesome. So Grace is like, and Grace is from Hayward, wanted to move back from LA to live here, to be closer to her parents. So this is all about like people who are from this area. And I was like, all right, we need to get me out into the community more so I can actually meet people. Because normally I would just do my show and come home, and just be a dad. But I was like, I need to start like actually being around here. So we reached out to the Oakland School of the Arts to talk to the kids there. And it just became this thing like, how do we make this so that these young people in Oakland don't feel as far away from this as they may feel right now? So at the same time we were doing that, I did an event with Ryan Coogler at the Oakland Museum of California. And the mayor reached out and was like, I want to meet and talk about some things I'm excited about. And so I met with the mayor. Ryan was busy, as he always is.
You went solo, you flew solo.
I went solo, but I also brought in Pastor Michael McBride of Live Free and the Way Church in Berkeley, who's like my like activist in a glass case, like in case of emergency, break glass. And he's also my pastor, even though I've been to his church twice. And I was like, because I know like this doesn't work without the community being involved in it. Again, I'm not from here. I don't want anybody to ever think that I'm taking more credit than I should take, or that I somehow want to do this myself. And so I called Pastor Mike, because he's had many meetings with many mayors, including this one. I was like, you need to come here. I'm about to meet with the mayor. You're late already, even though you didn't know this was happening. So he rolls through. And the conversation, it was clear the mayor's like, I want to do something. I don't know what that is. And I was like, well, I know generally we need tax incentives and we need ways to train the next generation and we need to get community buy-in. Pastor Mike was like, and this also has to stay, it's not a political thing. It's about the city of Oakland. So it's not about one team or one side. It's about like, if we do this, we're creating a jobs program and a training program for Oakland. So that was just that first meeting, and then very quickly I started calling all the people in my phone who I like know, like Pete Nix and Jocelyn Rose Lyons and Ryan, and just sort of like seeing, like, and also like then David Diggs and Rafa Casal, who don't live here but are as Oakland as it comes. And so about like how can we figure out a way to put this together? Emails went around, email lists, and then at some point there was no momentum. We're like, we're going to meet with the mayor. We need a name. What is this? And even in naming it, we were very clear that, like, while we are saying this is about Oakland, it's really about the East Bay. Because even a lot of people who are from Oakland can't afford to live in Oakland, so they live in Berkeley. You know what I mean? Or they live somewhere else. Or people maybe even somebody sitting here, are born in Oakland but grow up in different parts of the East Bay, but are still sort of like claiming this identity of Oakland. Yeah. So we decided to call it the East Bay Film Collective. The idea about like we are starting in Oakland because that's where the mayor is, but ultimately the idea is like to make Alameda easier to film, to make Emeryville, to make Berkeley, sort of to do it across the East Bay cities, because that's the way they do it in San Antonio. It's like this. It's like not just the city of San Antonio. It's all the cities surrounding San Antonio.
Awesome, yeah. So that first time the mayor called you, were you like, oh, why? Like, what was like? Can you take me through your mindset? Like, surprise, hey, this is the mayor.
I mean, it's one of those things you're like, oh, am I that guy now? I mean, I know my hair's gray, but am I that guy now? Like, because I'm still the guy who was like in the back of the punchline in San Francisco, like, hope I get up and do 7 minutes. Yeah. So, and then sort of like, for me, there's a bit of like, I don't want to know if I want to get involved in politics.
That was my next question, did you ever foresee that there would be this crossover, this connection for you? I mean, you definitely have commentary on politics.
Yeah, but I'm also very like, me and my wife have talked a lot about we're really very careful about how deep I get involved, because that's not really where I want to be. I don't want to be like anybody. The last thing I want is for me to come on TV and it says W. Kamau Bell surrogate for some candidate. Like, I don't want to be like the official spokesperson or the celebrity spokesperson. I'm really more connected to like movements and nonprofit organizations, not like a political candidate. Because I think the biggest thing is it's not about any of us individually. It's about Oakland and the East Bay, and about like, for me, it's about like, how do you make showbiz not a dream? Yeah. How do you make it a job? Yeah. So there are way more jobs in show business that are like good paying union jobs that have nothing to do with the script or acting. Mm-hmm. They have to do with like what we're looking like, the wires, like what we're seeing here, like the guy standing behind the camera over there. Like, it's about that. Then you do a whip pan to that guy. Just kidding. but like, it's more, and those are jobs. Mm-hmm. And if you're doing them for like a production for like a movie from Hollywood, you're talking about union jobs a lot of the times. Like, so the idea being that like, and I haven't talked to Ryan about this, so I'm not saying anything, but Ryan shot Wakanda Forever in Atlanta. Mm-hmm. What if he shot it here? Yeah. Think about how many jobs that is. Also, how cool it is to feel like you're in the city where that's happening. Mm-hmm. How you go like, that's being shot over there. It's not being shot 1,000 miles away or 2,000 miles away or on the other side of the planet. It's being shot right there. So what does that do for a kid growing up who goes, I want to do something? Even if I don't want to do things related to show business, I see amazing things happening in my city. Yeah. So I can accomplish what I want to accomplish.
I love seeing when I watch a movie that's shot in Oakland, I'm like, oh, I've been there. Yeah. Oh, I know that's downtown. Yeah. Oh, that's the park by. Yeah. I mean, it does feel good. And I can imagine for a kid, it's like amplified, right?
Yeah, it's exciting. And it's also, at this time in history, this time in Oakland's history, all ideas are on the table. There's lots of things that need to happen and we want to happen. This is not the idea that's going to solve everything. Yeah. But it is an idea that could be additive to Oakland.
For sure. Yeah. So you mentioned it a little bit when you said you sat down with the mayor and you kind of laid out a few things, like, I don't know exactly, but incentives, certain things that we would need to help make this a reality. Yes. Not to get too much into the nitty gritty, but. Yeah,
because I'm not nobody thinks of me as the nitty gritty guy. I'm the big idea guy, but yes.
I'm the big idea guy. Like, what do you think are some of the things that you would like to see that would really make this possible in a way that would uplift the whole city?
So production uplifts or incentives is a way so that like, there's just things that happen in other cities like San Francisco where for every dollar that the production spends in town, they get a rebate of some sort. So like they get like, a certain percentage they get back. But you have to spend the money first. You don't get the money back until you spend it, which is important. So it's not like cities aren't giving people money. It's like once you spend the money, we will rebate you some of that. There have been studies that show that like cities don't lose money on that. They gain money on that because, like, for example, in San Francisco, for every dollar that is spent on production, San Francisco gets $13 back as far as, like businesses and things that surround the production because people have to eat in town. They stay in hotels. So all these things happen. They buy a T-shirt. They go to a local venue and get a drink at the bar. Like, there's money that is spent outside of the production money that benefits the city as a whole. Yeah. So that's one of the big things is that, and that's something that, like, it is a government thing. We can't do that without the government being involved and being interested in it. So, like, it's a thing that, like, the mayor and the city council have to pass. Yeah. We think that there's enough will on that for that to happen. You have to write the initiative up. This is none of my department, but there's initiatives to be written up. It has to go through revisions. We have to look at it. If that's passed, then it becomes a thing where, like, somebody from like LA can be like, oh, we can film in Oakland now. And it has to be such a thing that like we have to at least match what San Francisco's doing. Because if you're like thinking about coming up here and San Francisco's got a better deal, then you're just gonna go to San Francisco. Yeah. And the thing that's important is like when we think about Oakland, we think about filming in Oakland because you want to film in Oakland. But you also want people to film in Oakland who just need to film in a city.
Yeah.
You know, like I mean, so it doesn't always have to be about like the Oakland identity. It's just about like, you know, some random action movie wants to film. Oh, we can film in Oakland where the weather's good most of the year, you know? Because, like, think about Atlanta, it gets super hot, you know? Like, so there's time of the year that you can't film there or it's harder to film there. Whereas in Oakland, the weather's generally pretty good all year. So it's the idea that, like, it's also about, like, people who just want to make television filming up here because this is an affordable place to film. And I know from being in LA for a lot, they love the Bay Area. They just don't have reasons to come up here. So it's about making the invitation irresistible.
For sure.
Yeah.
And then also, what about the filmmaking community that's already existent here? Because I know a lot of that's about bringing in business and industry, but like there's a lot of production companies here, or like filmmakers, independent filmmakers. So in terms of bringing business for those people and uplifting them, like what would you think would be kind of like a necessity?
One of the things we're talking about is that if you are a production company that's been in town 3 years or more, that there's also additional incentives for you to work here. And it also means that there are additional incentives for people coming in to work with you because you will also be bringing your own incentives. Yeah. So the idea being that like it's not just for people coming from the outside. If you're here already and doing the work and you're making stuff here, then you get incentives that somebody coming from the outside can't get. So it's about that too. And again, it's about like the rising tide that hopefully lifts all the boats. And those of us who are here, if we can be a part of helping train the next generation, we're literally training the people we're working with. Yeah. So it's like not about like having to. There's a lot of things that happen where like people will film up here, but they fly everybody in from LA, which is also expensive. So if those of us who are here already can train the next generation of DPs and PAs and associate producers here, it also helps create a database here that then it's easy to find out who those people are, because a lot of times I'll be in a position where I was like, I know there's somebody in Oakland who can do this, but I don't know that person's name. And I have to make 3 or 4 phone calls where hopefully you want to be a thing where it's like there's one-stop shop. And so part of it's also creating an office that's either a part of the government or separate from the government that is like the Oakland Film Office or the East Bay Film Collective Office, so that like if I'm like, I need an associate producer, I can call that office. Or if I want to know, like currently in Oakland, if you want to film in the city, if you want to film the park, that's one person to talk to. If you want to film downtown, that's another person. If you want to film, so all these different things are different people, and we want to consolidate that so there's one call you make to talk to one person who already knows the answers to your questions.
For sure.
Yeah.
So it feels like when you're talking about the solutions, it feels like there's a lot of obstacles, right? Right now, things that are not missing pieces, I would say.
Yeah.
So maybe it's like we don't have that film.
It would, but it would be ridiculous to not accept that.
Yeah.
Because if there weren't a lot of obstacles, it would have been done already.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, if the weigh-ins couldn't get it done and they were apparently interested and they were at the, you know, the height of their weigh-ins powers, you know what I mean? Like if they couldn't get it done, why would it be easy? And like I said, a lot of people have tried this. That's why I think it's important to focus on the political moment of like the politicians seem to be on our side. And then whether those politicians win re-election or not, it will get through and it'll just be a part of the new way. Like I think it's the biggest studio in America is in Atlanta. It's Tyler Perry's studio on like 330 acres or something.
Yeah, he did a big thing.
Yeah, like, you know, Tyler Perry. Yeah. You know, 20 years ago I was making fun of him. Sorry about that, Tyler. You know, so it's like the idea being that like Atlanta's a great model for like it can happen fairly quickly if you just sort of dig in and know that there's going to be obstacles. And like it's also important for us to bring in the filmmaker people to connect to all the other artists in Oakland, the musicians, the fine artists, the graphic designers, who are like, because it's about them too.
Yeah.
It's about like if we're making this stuff here, let's use Oakland musicians, let's use Oakland artists to be a part of this. So it's also about us doing this in a way that doesn't feel like it's separate from the other arts community, because all of us who are working in film or TV or media have been a part of those other arts communities at one point or another.
And they all rely on each other as well, right? It's like, okay, we need a set design, we need some artists to come in and do, like, so everyone will get uplifted when you uplift this one part. It's not a silo.
I should have said that.
I mean, I've been talking to a few people. I don't know if that was my original thought here, you know?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different, aspects of the film community, the film industry, whether it's documentary filmmaking, commercial, nonfiction, et cetera. So when you think about this coalition and the efforts that are being, undertaken by the East Bay Film Collective, how do you feel like you can get everyone's voices at that table?
I mean, this only make sense if every level of production company is involved, every type of production company. Filmmakers who have won major awards like Ryan, all the way down to filmmakers who are like, I shoot things on my iPhone. Like, you want to make it feel like everybody can sort of benefit from this, and there's a way in for everybody. Like, for example, the kind of jobs we're hoping to bring here aren't necessarily jobs that involve documentary filmmaking, because we don't need to generally shoot or shut down a whole street. Like, we don't generally need to like get all those kind of permits. And I know that, so it's not even really for the kind of filmmaking that I do currently, but I do know that it is better for me if the Bay Area, if the East Bay, if Oakland has an active, vibrant, accessible scene that I can tap into if I need it, or can tap into me if it needs it. So if we're like all in the same, like I always say to my wife, like, I have to take regular trips to LA to sort of meet with people, because I'm not going to run into them at the Coffee, Tea, and Bean Leaf or whatever that place is called. Like, there's just a way in LA that you just sort of like, it's just an industry town, so people run across each other, and sort of a lot of the work gets done sort of casually. And I think that right now, I think the way it generally works is that we're all sort of in our separate silos here doing our work. Maybe I see you at like the San Francisco Film Festival, we high five, but there's not like, other than like Cinemama has done a lot of work to like create events for filmmakers from the Bay Area to come together. And we want to build on that. So Cinemama is already doing that. But I think right now it's like, if you're not on that email list, you may not know about it. How do we make a big announcement? How do we let the community of filmmakers know, the community outside of filmmakers know, we're doing this, there's a name for it, there'll be a way for you to get involved, and we can all sort of like cross-pollinate. I think that's the important thing. It's like, it's not about like necessarily right away, how does this benefit me? It's about, how does this benefit Oakland? And at some point, maybe it'll benefit me. But even if it doesn't, benefiting Oakland benefits me.
That right there, tagline.
Thanks. I knew I'd get to it eventually. I'm a long talker, but I can sometimes stick the land.
No, I loved it. That was you were Simone Biles.
Yeah, I was Simone Biles. A lot of like, boom. Yeah.
Beautiful finish. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming today and talking with us. It was a pleasure to hear your perspectives, and thanks for the laughs.
Oh, I'm glad there were some laughs in there.
Always some laughs.